FNAF is a humongous series, and with nearly 10 years of history behind it, there's bound to be a lot of smaller details that slipped past us while we were trying to figure out the bigger picture. But after Security Breach, we gave up on that, so we might as well go back and look at the fun stuff. That's what we're exploring today. Let's do it. And be sure you let me know below what your favorite FNAF game is and why. In at 10, crashing. Golden Freddy has some weird abilities, okay? Like, what's with the whole crashing us to desktop thing? With every other animatronic, it sends us to the main menu, but Golden Freddy sends us to our desktop. That's a very odd detail, and I don't think anyone aside from me was really questioning it. But it certainly seems to indicate that there would be something special about this character. And I mean, like, there is, but like, come on. I don't think it's like something as simple as they're angrier than the other animatronics, because that wouldn't really change how it affects our computer in our world. I think it's more symbolic than that. You see, the only other character that when killing us crashes us to our desktop is Nightmare from FNAF 4. They're the only two animatronics to crash us to our desktops in any game, and while with Golden Freddy that may not make much sense, with Nightmare having this same ability, it kinda sets a baseline for what's really going on. Nightmare in FNAF 4 is representative of death, and when Nightmare catches us, we crash to desktop and we truly die. Which would mean that the same would have to be true with Golden Freddy, right? Well, what about if I told you that if you lose any of the lawsuits from FNAF 6, it also crashes you to your desktop? Yeah, so if we lose a lawsuit, does Henry take his anger out on us? And at 9, evil programming. Have you ever thought about why these animatronics are attacking? Like, really thought about it, like, in depth? Sure, we know it's because we look like William and the animatronics were possessed, but if I was possessing something and going after the man that I had thought killed me, I'd get pretty steamed if he kept shutting a door in my face every time I got close enough to enact my revenge. But if that kept happening, do you know what I would do? I would change things up. I would go down a different path. Something that I wasn't doing every other time I got blocked. But nobody does that in FNAF 1. Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, they all stick to their same paths every time they come after us. They stick to their sides of the hallways. Which makes me think that they aren't doing it because they want revenge or because we aren't wearing an animatronic suit. No, the repeated patterns and inability to adapt makes it really seem like it's intentional. Like it's what they were told to do in their programming. Following the same route every time is what code is supposed to do. It's what their programming is telling them. Angry spirits possessing robots would be adapting, even if they are kids, okay? If you're possessing a robot, you don't follow the robot's programming. That's not a thing. And at 8, lawsuit legality. I'm going to be mentioning these lawsuits quite a bit on this list, okay? But there's good reason for it. Lawsuit number 4, or at least it is lawsuit number 4 in the gallery order on the fandom wiki, which is civil suit number 365422879, has their first complaint as, quote, a young boy suffered severe mental trauma because of defendant Fazbear Entertainment Inc.'s cold-hearted indifference to the health and well-being of the human population. Which, while true, okay, we know that, would not actually be valid on a lawsuit. You can't describe the company as cold-hearted or say that they don't care about the health and well-being of the human population. That's slander. Or maybe it's libel, depending on how they'd want to pursue it, because as it would pertain to the facts of the case, you have no information as to what is in the brain of other people. Like how you can't say what someone else said to you. Objection hearsay, you know? And in this case, it doesn't seem like Fazbear actually has fault in this. If you look at the reasoning, the ground gave way beneath this boy and he got trapped in basically a mini sinkhole. Something which would have been near impossible to calculate when actually building the place, and plus, you know, how am I supposed to expect the ground to fall out from underneath people? And it's even noted on this lawsuit that Fazbear Entertainment was lowering this kid pizza and party favors while they were waiting for emergency services. And all this kid developed as a result of this was a fear of the dark and a fear of anchovies, both of which are common among kids already. So, yeah, there was no physical trauma listed, so he didn't get physically hurt. And at 7, crying child chest. In Princess Quest, the Security Breach version, there's purple chests that are meant to contain keys that, in essence, end the level. But a while ago, and I'm talking like a while ago, like 2021 I'm pretty sure, someone pointed out to me that the purple chests kind of look like crying child. 2 black eyes on the lid, lighter streaks coming down from those eyes, a stripe on the shirt. I made a quick reference photo to show you what I mean, where I just added color to the chest parts to better visualize it. so here it is. But honestly, after this was pointed out to me, I knew that I would have to bring it up on a list at some point. I've been gathering points for years on this list, trying to make another one of these, and honestly, this one is pretty interesting. I don't know if it was intentional, but it certainly doesn't seem wrong. And at 6, Cover Bear. Easy breezy, beautiful cover bear. A while ago, I purchased the Freddy Files Updated Edition book off of Amazon in an effort to get more details and find what details seem to be the most important to the series, and it's also an excellent place to find confirmed details. But one thing that I noticed a while after getting the book was actually there's a shadow on the cover on the front. If you look closely enough, you can actually make out the shape of Freddy, which I guess in this case, in context of what the book is, would be standing behind you, which I have to say is pretty damn terrifying. Okay, this implies that basically anyone who learns about the Fazbear secrets because of this book, which is presented like secret files on the cover, will get got by Freddy. You know, the old... yeah, the old metal assassin. This makes me think that there is certainly something more to this company that we don't know, and it's definitely something even more shady that we weren't considering or just hadn't really been presented yet. But it very well might not be that deep. I might be thinking too much into it, but let's be honest, it's Scott, so it probably is. Yeah, this one cover shadow shows us that Fazbear Entertainment is ready to silence anyone who learns a little too much for any reason. And if you like learning about little tiny details from games, be sure you hit that like button so that we know, so we can keep making more. If we don't know you like it, how are we supposed to make more? You get me? Halfway through into number 5, emotional trauma. Coming back to the lawsuits from FNAF 6 yet again. Civil suit number 5269, nice, 8752 is quite the interesting one, and honestly, the most outlandish of the bunch. According to this suit, quote, a young girl was left impossibly and grossly traumatized due to the negligence of defendant Fazbear Entertainment Inc. She witnessed the head of an animatronic fall off and roll across the ground. How is that grounds for a lawsuit based on emotional trauma? Like, can I go sue Disney for when I saw Mickey take off his head that one time? Cause like, that's basically what this is. And then, since they knew they didn't really have a case, they exaggerated the repercussions. Quote again, the trauma put the young girl in a coma for 10 weeks. When she awoke from her coma, she had been effectively lobotomized. She relies on her parents and health aides for all function in her life, except for watching TV, hanging out with her girlfriends, and going to the mall. Which all kind of conflicts with one another. First off, okay, it's clearly not all functions in her life, so it should say most functions, but again, of course, she's gonna rely on her parents. You've been describing her as a young girl the whole time, and if she's young enough to be emotionally traumatized by watching an animatronic break, there's no way she wouldn't be relying on her parents for everything already. Also, how can you prove that this coma was brought on by this incident? Is there a doctor's report? There's no doctor name listed, there's no reports with it, and what do you mean she was effectively lobotomized? You can't sue off of this is basically what happened, okay? That's not grounds. Plus, if she doesn't rely on her parents when going to the mall, how old is she really? Okay, because a young girl that's young enough to get traumatized by a broken robot is too young to be going to the mall with her friends alone. And at 4, Bite of, huh? Okay, we all know the story of the Bite of 83 and the Bite of 87. In 1983, Crying Child gets chomped and put in a coma where he later dies from his injuries. Yeah, that's an actual coma that was caused by Fazbear Entertainment. And in 1987, Jeremy from FNAF 2 gets his frontal lobe removed after an animatronic bit him and then is promoted to day shift, seemingly as compensation. However, in civil suit number 834710865, apparently it happened yet again. That's right, we're back to lawsuits, baby. According to this lawsuit in FNAF 6, a child suffered debilitating injuries after his head was bitten by an animatronic. Although his frontal lobe remained connected to his head, doctors aren't sure how long it will stay that way. The trauma from the event may cause it to fall off yet. And honestly, I agree with this lawsuit mostly, okay? The grounds for this lawsuit are just, since the kid was bit by an animatronic and sent to the hospital because of it. However, I'm confused as to how his frontal lobe would stay connected to his head but be in such bad shape that it also might fall off and they don't know how long it will stay on. Okay, like how does that even work? Is it dangling by a thread? Is it still being used? Is it connected to is it connected to his brain? Is that section of his brain dead? Because if it is, and the doctors aren't doing what they need to in order to remove it and prevent further damage, that's on them. not Fazbear Entertainment. It would be more effective to say that it had to be removed due to the incident rather than it's still connected but only just. I don't think that's how brains work. Getting close to the end in number 3, Puauma. But how could we be dealing with so many lawsuits that don't really have much base? Well, my friends, that's thanks to Puauma, or the Parents Union Against Unsafe Atrocities and Mechanical Abominations, which they apparently misspelt on their lawsuits since they add an apostrophe to parents, which in reality makes it parent is Union Against Unsafe Atrocities and Mechanical Abominations, which doesn't make sense grammatically, but I digress. Every single one of these lawsuits is filed by this group, which doesn't seem to be a legal entity. There are no attorneys on record, there are no dates on these documents, not even a union foreman, and that name is so damn specific, who else are they going to come after? Okay, it seems very targeted. And given the lack of dates, attorneys, and honestly, lack of foundation for the most part, these seem like motions or lawsuits that have yet to be filed. As in, Puauma is coming to Fazbear Entertainment and saying, pay us off before we file this lawsuit. Which, from my understanding at least, unless the lawsuit is already set in motion and already filed, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, because that's just blackmail. All of these people are just after a payout, not justice. But ultimately, in number 2, Your Honor. Okay, this is the last point involving the FNAF lawsuits, and it's not even really a lawsuit. But in civil case number 834710865, the one involving the third bite incident, it actually has quite the interesting judge presiding over the trial. Judge Steve Kaufman is listed on the complaint, which should be taken note of because the initials SC are quite important to FNAF. No, not Santa Claus, but given that the creator Scott Cawthon also shares these initials, yeah, I think that there's something there. And considering how Steve Kaufman and Scott Cawthon sound so damn similar, I think we can all agree that this is just a nod to the creator of the series and the founder. Or at least the founder in a way, but also who didn't kill countless people in an attempt to find the secret to immortality. But I guess since he wrote the story, he in a sense did kill all those people too. Huh. That's interesting. And finally, in number 1, hallucination. Golden Freddy isn't real, okay? He's a hallucination. Hear me out. Golden Freddy only starts showing up after Michael goes through extreme trauma, and seems to only be seen by Michael. Golden Freddy doesn't show up anywhere in promotional material for any of the restaurants, even before the bite of 87. Since him causing the bite of 87 could be considered the reason they stopped promoting him, if you wanted to go down that route. But even in FNAF 2, which is just before the bite of 87, since it may even take place during the week of and whatever, we don't see any art for the new Golden Freddy. While he does appear in the post-Night 3 cutscene, these are referred to as end-of-night hallucinations, where you would think the theory would fall apart because, well, it's a hallucination, yes, but at this point we're playing as Jeremy Fitzgerald, but that doesn't mean that these hallucinations have to be his. Think about how these hallucinations are presenting themselves. They're the location from the first game, a game that we know we play as Michael Afton in, where we're inside an animatronic, much like Michael was part robot after his sister location fiasco, and we're inside Freddy specifically, like how Michael would associate the character with the one who ended up killing his brother, and also Golden Freddy only shows up as another hallucination on top of this one, but we have a whole video on that. And the video about to pop on your screen isn't a hallucination, haha, so if you don't believe me, why don't you give it a click? Maybe it's even the one that I just referenced. Thanks for watching.